Hello, everyone, and greetings to this first session of Grace Life Coaching's YouTube channel. I'm Timothy Muse. I am a pastor, a podcaster, a life coach, a lot of things. So some of you may know me as the pastor of St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Alliance, Ohio. And if that is the case, it's a joy to have you tuning into this YouTube channel. You probably connected to my other YouTube channel. I do a lot of Bible studies and worship services and the such. So that's really a joy and an offering, and thank you for that opportunity. Some of you may know me as a podcaster. I have a podcast. Actually, I just published session 60 of that podcast, episode 60 today. So, and that podcast is really focusing on life coaching and on growth as a human being, mindset and habits and the such. Some of you may know me as a life coach, as someone who comes alongside people and helps and coaches. So I wear a lot of different hats, and none of them are untrue. They're all actually true and straightforward. That's what I do. I am a pastor in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. I am unapologetic about that. I love the work that I do. I'm also a life coach, and I'm not a Christian life coach. I want to make sure that I'm clear about that. I do coach Christians, and I have no problem coaching Christians, and I do come from a Christian background, a Christian perspective, but I do not limit my coaching to Christians, nor do I expect a Christocentric coaching process. That's not where I'm at. That's not what I bring. Again, I will coach a Christian, and we will coach from a Christian perspective, but it doesn't have to be. I don't require my clients to be Christian in any way, shape, or form. Not that I'm ashamed of it, but I think there is a realm out there beyond the religiosity aspect. So I am a pastor. I am a professed Christian. I am also a coach and a podcaster. My podcast really focuses around my coaching. And I really don't do much in the way of religiosity in my podcast. That's the point. I don't want my podcast to come across as a religious podcast. I may dwell into some spirituality, but it's not meant to be a religious podcast. It's meant to be a coaching podcast. So I really kind of live in two worlds. A sacred world, which is what we have, what I have in my clergy and my preaching and my teaching and my ministry, which is really my vocation, my full-time role. But then I also live in the secular world when it comes to coaching, mindset and growth and betterment. Okay, so I really I have both feet squarely planted in the spiritual world, but I also have a foot in the secular world when it comes to coaching and mindset. A little bit of psychology. I don't have a degree in psychology, so I really don't wade too far into those waters. It's important for me to understand that. So I found myself, in living in these two different worlds, really, and enjoying living in these two different worlds, but seeing that there is a lot of overlap in these two worlds, in the sacred and the secular. And I think for most of human history, we've been able to see that overlap. We've been able to see that place where there is a balance, an overlap between the sacred and the secular. I think in the past 60, 70 years, maybe 100 years, but I mean, historically, coming maybe out of the Great Depression and into World War II, we saw where sacred and secular started to reside in two different realms, two different areas. The scientific revolution really kind of helped that, and in a lot of ways, when philosophy started breaking off into a lot of the ologies, psychology, sociology, that kind of stuff, we started to see a little bit more formation. And all this is beautiful and wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like I'm being ungrateful in any way, shape, or form, because I'm not. I think they're really, really important and really, really powerful. So we have these realms, all right? So we have this secular realm and this sacred realm. And they both have their powerful points, and they both have their offerings to the world. But we have seen, I think, really more fully in the past 15, 20 years specifically, where there is very much a divide between these two realms. And it is almost as if the secular stays in the secular and the sacred stays in the sacred, and two people playing on the playground, and never the two shall intersect with each other. And that seems to be really really basic and really black and white. But the reality is that there's a lot of sameness in these two realms. The more I dwell in both the sacred and the secular, the more I see that there is a sameness, that there is a place where these realms intersect. And my vision for this channel, for this expression of Grace Life Coaching, the YouTube expression, if you will, is really to allow the breadth to move in and out more fully. I spend a lot of my biblical time, my ministry time, focusing on the sacred, which is what the church and God expects me to do. And my life coaching time, I spend a lot of time focusing on the secular, because that's what I want my life coaching to be. But I also wanted to create an area, a space, where these two are going to kind of dwell together, where there is going to be some intersection, because there's a lot of intersection that we have in the sacred and the secular. There's a lot of places where they come together. They mirror each other in some areas. They complement each other in some areas. They work with each other in some areas. But there's very much a similar path that is being walked at here. And what I want to do with this offering, what I want to do in this place, is try to find some places where we can bridge the gap one to the other, where we can have conversation, where we can see that there is balance and that there is some sameness. We are not, we're not totally different travelers on the road. There is a lot that we do that looks like each other. We don't need to hate or destroy each other. We don't need to be at war with each other, sacred and secular. We really don't. There are places where the sacred does have influence, and there's places where the secular has influence. And I think, when we reside in our own lives, we find that there is some secular, some empirical, some scientific, some real factual, but then there are some places that just in our lives don't have that yet, or can't find that. When we talk about relationships and love and feelings, things that we really can't empiricize or come into some kind of secular reality. So there really is a place where we can talk together. And we really don't have good examples of this. I think that's one of the things I'm hoping for out of this, is that we can have some good examples. And, and maybe there'll be some guests. We can have some conversation. We can see really, talk about where the sacred and the secular meet, and where we diverge, where we can acknowledge the valid point of the other. I mean, a lot of times, the sacred has valid points, and a lot of times the secular has valid points, but we ignore those valid points. We say that those points aren't valid because of where they're coming from. So the secular doesn't have a valid point about this because it's coming from the secular realm. Well, maybe it does. Maybe we need to look past where it's coming from to see what the point is. And the same with the sacred. And being able to be open to the idea that each one of these places can have some valid points, and we can build on each other and work with each other. We don't need to be in competition with the world around us, with each other in the world around us. There's enough in the world around us that creates competition. We don't need to foster, kind of gestate this competition between the secular and the sacred, and the secular and the secular and the sacred. I'm gonna, at some point I'm gonna mash these two words together. You watch. But we do need to find a place where we can talk about these things in a more open and accepting way. Again, we don't have to agree. And I don't want this to be a place to anybody think that I'm looking to draw people from the secular to the sacred, or from the sacred to the secular. That's not what this is. I mean, I'm an evangelist. I do out and I talk about my faith, and I witness my faith, and I want people to come into my faith. Check out my other YouTube channel if that's what you're interested in. There's hundreds of Bible studies and videos and everything else that's out there, worship services, meditations, and that's all part of what that is supposed to be, and that's all part of that evangelical outreach. But I don't see that here. I don't want that to be this. Now, if in the midst of dialogue you're interested, then great, awesome. But that's not what I'm looking to offer here. I'm not looking to necessarily convince one over the other. I don't think that's helpful. I think we have enough of that in the world, from both from what would be considered the left and the right, from the more liberal denominations to the more conservative denominations. I think we have enough of that. And if that's what we want, if we need one more voice, I can do that. But what I really think we need in the midst of all, and I don't want to take away anybody else's voice. That's not what I'm about. But I think in the midst of it, there certainly needs to be a place where we can see that the sacred and the secular have common ground, and that we can talk in a common language for the betterment of those around us. And think that's just not where we're at. We don't have those examples, and I would like that to be part of the example. I'd like to be that to be part of the offering that this coaching opportunity offers, is to have this place where we can acknowledge, we don't have it all. You don't have it all, but we can work together. Maybe we can find some common ground, and maybe we can just agree to disagree. But we can still love each other. We can still get along with each other. One of the things that I see far too much is the polarization and the divisiveness of the world we live in, to the point where it's just like, look, if you don't agree with me, I can't love you. Well, I can't see that as a viable way forward. I can't see that as a viable way forward. I can't see how we as humans can coexist when we kind of demonize and delegitimize each other for thinking differently. Even if we don't agree, we don't have to agree, but we don't need to delegitimize and we don't need to dehumanize someone else because they agree differently. They're not our enemy. We have a lot of enemies as humans: hunger, want, greed, cancers. Those are our enemies. Those are the things that we should be putting our energy into, not each other, because we don't agree. But we see it. So I really hope that we can offer here a voice that is that we can talk about things and bring up issues and bring up things and see that we have offerings for each other. We're not that far off in a lot of ways. We're not that different. The sacred and the secular are not that different. There are differences. And there are differences we hold on to. And we should be able to hold on to what is different. But we shouldn't be required to dehumanize someone else because of their difference. So that's really what I want to offer. That's really what I want to offer in this time. And I don't know how often. I'm hoping to be able to put out something pretty regular and find different issues. Again, and you're getting this through the website, GRACELifeCoaching.com, or Grace Life Coaching's YouTube channel, which is connected to the website. So I'd really be interested. I mean, if there's something, if you have a question, if there's something you want me to address or you want to hear me talk about, then send it out there. I'll do the best I can to bring it out. Again, the moniker of Grace Life Coaching, and I think the moniker of Christianity, which is why I hold on to it, is we want you to be the best you. We want you to be the best that you can be for the world around us. So if there's something that's, weighing on your heart, or you have a question about it, what have you, if I can help out, if we can use this platform, this venue, it's a beautiful venue, it's a beautiful platform, there's so many opportunities. If we can use this platform, then I would encourage us to use it. I would encourage us to examine it and experience it for all that it's worth, okay, for all that it is. So that's what I want. That's my vision for this channel, at least right now, is to be able to come together and bring some connection, some positive connection between the secular and the sacred, not as a way to weaponize one or the other. Again, like I've said, I think we see enough of that. Now I have my collar on, as you can see, and I may not wear a collar all the time. I may, I go back and forth. Again, I am not embarrassed about my sacred roots or my sacred calling. I'm really not. I'm not embarrassed about it at all. As a matter of fact, I'm quite proud of it. But I also don't want it to be something that turns off a conversation, because that's not helpful for anybody. So in the midst of this channel, okay, unlike the other aspects of Grace Life Coaching, which I really kind of lean far more into the secular, there is some sacred, mystical, but it's a lot more secular mindset thinking. I'm good with that, and I love that, and I want that for that, and I'm very sacred within the midst of my ministry. But I hope to see this as a way for us to come together and create something different, create something where we can talk and share and grow. So that's the vision. That's the goal I have for this channel, for this offering. And I hope it's something that is worthy. I hope it's something worthy of my time and your time, definitely. So that's where we begin. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for spending a little bit of time. I'm gonna try to keep these things to a relatively short period of time. I know a lot of us don't really have a lot of time to interact or grow. So that's just where it's at. I'm gonna try to keep these to a relatively short period of time. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for being part of the work and part of this. It's kind of raw. There's not going to be a whole lot of editing. So, you see me kind of like scratching my eye, or maybe I'll take a drink or whatever. But I really, that's kind of what I want. I don't want it to be real published or real edited. It's kind of raw because again, there's a lot of rawness both in spirituality and in sacred and in secular, and I think that we can experience and dwell and grow. So be well in this, be well in whatever your day or your week is offering, and we'll touch base again. Look for the next episode, the next session to come out, as we dig deeper into and as we explore the areas where the sacred and the secular intertwine and intermeet. So as always, here at Grace Life Coaching, we want you to be the best you. Be well. We'll see you again soon.